Famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1970 in the United States. This is the 6th episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Chester Morris. He was born in February 1901 and he died in September 1970. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was overdose. Chester Morris was an American stage, film, television, and radio actor. He had some prestigious film roles early in his career and received an Academy Award nomination for Alibi in 1929. Morris is remembered for portraying Boston Blackie, a criminal-turned-detective in the Boston Blackie film series of the 1940s. Morris dropped out of school and began his Broadway career at 15 years old opposite Lionel Barrymore in The Copperhead. He made his film debut in the silent comedy drama film An Amateur Orphan in 1917. After appearing in several more Broadway productions in the early 1920s, Morris joined his parents, sister, and two brothers Gordon and Adrian on the vaudeville circuit. From 1923, they performed William Morris' original sketch called All the Horrors of Home, which premiered at the Palace Theatre, New York, then on the Keith Orpheum circuit for 2 years, including Proctor's Theatre, Mount Vernon, New York, and culminating in Los Angeles in 1925. Morris returned to Broadway with roles in The Hometowners in 1926 and Yellow in 1927. Percy Spencer. He was born in July 1894 and he died in September 1970. His age was 76 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Percy Spencer was an American physicist, electrical engineer, and inventor known as the inventor of the microwave oven. By 1939, Percy became one of the world's leading experts in radar tube design. Spencer worked at Raytheon, a contractor for the U.S. Department of Defense, as the chief of the power tube division. While working at Raytheon, Spencer developed a more efficient way to manufacture magnetrons, increasing production from 100 to 2600 magnetrons per day. With his reputation and expertise, Spencer helped Raytheon win a government contract to develop and produce combat radar equipment for MIT's radiation laboratory. This was of huge importance to the Allies of the Second World War and became the military's second highest priority project during the Second World War, behind the Manhattan Project. For his work, he was awarded the Distinguished Public Service Award by the United States Navy. According to legend, one day while building magnetrons, Spencer was standing in front of an active radar set, which he noticed the candy bar he had in his pocket melted. Alan Wilson. He was born in July 1943 and he died in September 1970. His age was 27 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was overdose. Alan Wilson was an American musician best known as the co-founder, leader, co-lead singer, and primary composer of the blues band Canned Heat. He sang and played harmonica and guitar with the group, live and on recordings. Wilson was the lead singer of the group's two biggest United States hit singles, On the Road Again and Going Up the Country. In 1962, Wilson met Harvard student and fellow blues enthusiast David Evans in a record store, and the two began playing as a team around the Cambridge Coffee House folk blues circuit, with Evans on vocals and guitar and Wilson on harmonica and occasionally second guitar. The two played a repertoire of mostly classic era blues covers. Heavily influenced by Skip James, Wilson eventually began singing in a similar way to James' high pitch. In high school, Wilson studied James' 1931 recordings with great ardor. Some of his first singing attempts took place behind a closed bedroom door, and when a family member overheard him, he was embarrassed. Wilson eventually perfected the high tenor for which he would become known. Jimi Hendrix. He was born in November 1942 and he died in September 1970. His age was 27 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was asphyxia. Jimi Hendrix was an American guitarist, songwriter, and singer. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential guitarists in the history of popular music. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1992 as a part of his band, The Jimi Hendrix Experience, the institution describes him as arguably the greatest instrumentalist in the history of rock music. He moved to Clarksville and then Nashville, Tennessee, and began playing gigs on the Chitlin circuit, earning a place in the Isley Brothers backing band and later with Little Richard, with whom he continued to work through mid-1965. He then played with Curtis Knight and The Squares. He achieved fame in the United States after his performance at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. His third and final studio album, Electric Ladyland, 1968, became his most commercially successful release and his only #1 album on the United States Billboard 200 chart. The world's highest-paid rock musician, Hendrix headlined the Woodstock Festival in 1969 and the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970. Blue Washington. He was born in February 1898 and he died in September 1970. His age was 72 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Blue Washington was an American actor and baseball player who played in the leagues from 1915 to 1920 as a pitcher and first baseman. Washington started his baseball career as a pitcher with the Chicago American Giants in 1915. He remained with Chicago in 1916. He later played with Kansas City Monarchs in 1920, appearing in 24 documented Major League games. He appeared in 74 films between 1919 and 1957, mostly playing small, uncredited roles as a porter, a bartender, and an African native, as in King Kong 1933 and Tarzan's Magic Fountain in 1949, a cook and a chauffeur, a ship's crew member, a Nubian slave, and a doorman. Some of his characters had names such as Ulambo, Sambo, and Hambone. In 1933, film Haunted Gold, he portrayed Clarence, John Wayne's comic sidekick. He had uncredited appearances in The Birth of a Nation 1915 and Gone with the Wind in 1939. Edgar Hughes Washington was the son of Susie Washington and had 3 siblings. He became a boxer at age 14 with the stage name of Kid Blue. He separated from his partner, Marion Lennon, when their son Kenny was 2 years old. Vince Lombardi. He was born in June 1913 and he died in September 1970. His age was 57 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. Vince Lombardi was an American professional football coach and executive in the National Football League (NFL). Lombardi is considered by many to be among the greatest coaches and leaders in American sports. He is best known as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers during the 1960s, where he led the team to 3 straight and 5 total NFL championships in 7 years, in addition to winning the first 2 Super Bowls at the conclusion of the 1966 and 1967 NFL seasons. Lombardi began his coaching career as an assistant and later as head coach at St. Cecilia High School in Englewood, New Jersey. He was assistant coach at Fordham University, where he coached with Jim Lansing. He also coached for the United States Military Academy and the New York Giants before serving as head coach and general manager for the Packers from 1959 to 1967 and the Washington Redskins from 1969 until dying from cancer during the 1970 preseason. He was enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the NFL Super Bowl trophy was named in his honor. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.